Everybody good? Hey, if you're watching online, we're glad you're with us. We're changing how we do what we do tonight. Has everybody got one of these? Anybody need one of these? You should have one on your person. If you don't, raise your hand, we'll get you one. All right, here. Pass them out. There we go. So if you're watching online, we're going to do it a little different tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit, and then we're going to go into our groups. We haven't done that since June. So we're going to do that again tonight, and I think that should be really good for some robust conversations, dialogue. I think that could be good. We got people that will be coming in, and so I'm just hesitating a little bit. Everybody enjoying the week? Everybody's back into the normal school, work, vacation's over. Summer's still here because it's still hot. Huh? Not hot today, you're right. Supposed to rain tomorrow, is that right? My wife comes back tomorrow. Woo! So if y'all hear a shout from the Nightdale area, it would be me. It's me over there. In fact, she just told me she thinks she's going to delay and come back late. So she's in Birmingham, Alabama, got to drive here from there 10 hours, but she's going to add to it, go up through Atlanta, up to Greenville, South Carolina to see my other daughter and my grandson Wyatt, so that'll put her probably getting back at midnight. Anyway, I found out I'm good at cooking, cleaning, changing the bed clothes. What else? Let's see. Washing my clothes. Hey, we got it going. So here when my house is clean, but I miss my wife. Everybody good? Anybody read the stuff this week? Yes. People coming in, Lisa, make sure they got one of the handouts. If you don't have a handout, you do need one tonight. So let's go ahead and move forward. Ushers, Mr. Usher, y'all want to go ahead and receive an offering. We always do that. I always want to say thank you again to those that help us financially. It takes a lot to do what we do and to spread the word the way we do in all the ways we do it. And we deeply appreciate those that help us do that and are part of Victory Church. So y'all know what to do. Victory Church checks, cash goes in envelopes. You can give online. All that's working. So I appreciate you people in the sound booth. Thank you guys. Just give them a hand. And if you're watching online and would like to give, there are resources there. You can go to our website. And I have looked recently. I think there's some stuff online that can lead you, but we appreciate your gifts. We just appreciate everybody helping us do what God's called us to do. Father, as we give tonight, we give with faith, expectation, purpose. Never because we have to, only because we want to. And we genuinely present from our hearts tithes, our offerings, and thank you for those that help us in our benevolence fund. Thank you for every need in Victory Church being met. And thank you for every need in every individual and family being met. You are our resource, but my God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:19. Thank you in Jesus' name. Y'all agree with that? Next week we're having praise and worship, so come, because we still want to do that, and I think it's going to be really good. We also have water baptism next week, so if you've had a fresh experience with the Lord, if you go on our website, we have a place you can sign up for water baptism. We'll get in contact with you to show you exactly what you need to do to participate in that. It'll be really good at the beginning of the service, and it's going to be really great. So, again, I've said this so many times, when I came to the Lord as an 8-year-old, I backslid as far as you can possibly do without falling off completely with a ragged edge. And I might have done that. But the second I came back to the Lord, I got rebaptized because it meant so much to me. So anyway, baptism is available next week. Let's see. And I also want to mention, so next week we have communion and all that, along with baptism, so we're going to have praise and worship. And I think it'll be really good. Then the following week, everybody say the following week. So that would be September the 9th. So it's next week, September 2nd. The 9th, we will not be here. My staff team and I are going to Raleigh Ministerial Association meeting in Greensboro, so we won't be here. So take a break. Y'all like taking a break on Wednesday? So take a break Wednesday the 9th. Not next week, the week after, we'll let you know. I haven't mentioned this publicly. So take a break and then we'll get back. And really, when we come back, we got some really great stuff that we're going to be covering on forgiveness, and you don't want to miss that. And it's going to take us several weeks probably to go through that. So, everybody good? The Lord will take the Word of God tonight and minister life to us, and we commit all of the results into your hands. And we just thank you for it. Lord, minister to us as we meet in our groups. And Lord, help us to really help me to relate everything I need to before we go there. In Jesus' name. All right. So if you'll take your handout or booklet, some of you have your booklet, which I think is a great thing, and turn to the bottom of page 75. I just need to do a lot of reading, because if I don't, I'll get talking, and you know what happens when I talk, I don't quit. So anyway, I need to really be careful. And let me cut, while we're doing that, let me cut my iPad off, because it will make noises. How many can remember the 4 stages? Simplified, I know. 4 stages of human development. What's the first one? The bonding. What's the second one? What's the third one? I know that's what's the fourth one. What we're going to talk about tonight is what to do if you're stuck in any one of those areas. This will be very helpful. This is day 2. By the way, we just kind of, the Holy Spirit kind of took the foot last week. I think it's all right, don't you? Look at the bottom of page 75. So this is what to do if you're blocked in any of these stages. The bottom of page 75 says the goal of the healing process is not self-improvement for selfish purposes, but freedom and health to love and serve Christ without being encumbered by hurts and distorted thinking of the past. I don't know how much distortion thinking. I shared with see how I get going. I shared with the small group leaders that I had some real distorted thinking as a child, thinking that everybody liked me. There were reasons for that. And that was because of my bonding stage. Just what it needed to be, and I thought it was. So I had to overcome that. So we'll maybe talk about that more a little bit. So anyway, when we have things that encumber our feelings and our thoughts, and you can't, the good news is, you can't overcome them. He brings out the fact that just as medical illness or treatment require time and care for physical healing, investing in our emotional health enables us to experience healing and move on to focus on Christ and others instead of ourselves. So it takes time. This second paragraph is kind of big. I'm going to read emotional healing and growth are difficult, but possible. It's not easy to be upfront with yourself when you're facing things. You'll look at me and you know a lot of people, they have dealt with things lifelong and don't realize how serious the things are that they're dealing with about themselves. And they think that it's so part of them, much part of them, that they don't even realize that it's something they shouldn't have. So see, man, I don't want to go so bad, but I kind of want to wait. So for me, thinking that nobody liked me, that's rejection thinking. It was very strong in me when I started school at age 5. And it just got worse as I skipped. This thing is nuts. Jesus help me. Y'all get calls all day? Help me, Jesus. Seriously. Anyway, where was I? So I started when I started school. I didn't realize the rejection thinking, but it went all the way through my teen years, all the way into my adult life, all the way up. I'm 30 years old, and I don't know if I have time to tell the story tonight or not, but I didn't even realize it was there. That's the way it is with some of this stuff. You got ways of thinking, ways of feeling, ways of responding, ways of relating that you don't realize are just not the way they need to be because you've always been that way. And when I found out that was unusual, it really shocked me. And now that I'm not encumbered by that, I look back on that era of my life thinking, man, that was a big weight on my shoulders that I didn't realize were there. I wonder how many people have those weights of life and emotion there. They don't even know we're not normal to everybody. So that's why I just think this is good to reveal it. So let's keep going here. A woman who was locked in bondage in the second paragraph, bondage stage, began healing and growing in her 30s. Another person from an abusive home found people who loved him, and bonded with in high school. He did then begin to grow. A man who was stuck in the separate states began to grow in his 20s. A woman who experienced a reversal in development. When the man she married became obsessed with professional success, later began to experience a little healing. In each of these cases, the people were stuck in a developmental stage, either bonding, separateness, or adolescence, or puberty. They recognize the problem, experience love, and grow. We don't grow without relationships. Relationships are the container of growth. And growth, every time I say the word growth, growth means change. Growth means that I'm progressing from where I was into a new way of thinking, a new way of living. Here we're talking about relationships on Wednesday nights. If you're new to this, to what we're doing, we started this in May. And so I encourage you to go back on the website, all of the videos where we started. Go listen to those. And the books are available. We mention this every week. You don't have the books. The books is available on Amazon. I think it's $22. Somebody told me about one for $8. Anyway, there are breaking the cycle of hurtful family experiences. So if you're blocked in the bonding stage, go down to the paragraph after the line. Some people who have bonding difficulties have learned to be gregarious and socially adept to winning the approval they so desperately want from others. Others, however, are more obviously insecure with both types of individuals. Are very lonely and empty. So you got a person who's talking at the party, they're always talking, always communicating, always smiling, always laughing. That could be genuine, or it could be hiding something. No, it's just, I see a lot, believe it or not. And they're an obvious person that's drawn into themselves and they obviously have some things they need to deal with. And some have simply done a better job of fooling others and maybe themselves out of it. In whatever way you see yourself, consider the specific actions with it. So the bonding stage, that's where you learn what love looks like, how it feels to be loved, how you respond to someone that loves you. I've said this in the past. If you haven't listened or go back and listen to it. So some people love is pain. Because people that should have loved it produced pain. I mean, I've had stories, y'all have stories of people who have been physically abused. Mental abuse is hard to quantify. Very difficult. But I have stories about that, and I also have stories about horrible sexual abuse. And I have had people who thought that the person who were abusing them when they were young children sexually actually loved them. So as they got older, they had all these sexual problems because of what was placed in the psychic's kid. Y'all understand this stuff is very deep and it's very, very challenging in our culture right now. So the bonding stage is where we learn what love looks like and what it feels like to be loved. While I'm talking about this, let me just say, as we get through this, if you need somebody to talk to, if you'll call our office, I'm willing to talk to you. If you're a lady, you've got personal things, we have ladies that can talk to you. We have resources that can help and are available. We've dealt with these things ever since I've been at Victory Church. This is my 32nd year. And Lord can make a tremendous difference. So look here, let's see, where am I? Where the pencil is, in the middle of the page. In a context of love and honesty, people whose growth have been blocked, the bonding stage, you need to want the following actions. So your thoughts is understand why I feel, think, and act the way I do. Accurately analyzing causes and consequences of the lack of parental bonding. So parents may have been in the home, but a lot of parents, lots of reasons, they may not have been emotionally connected enough that they can give you the emotional love that you need, or verbalize the love that you need, and the care that you need. If parents have problems, the children are going to have problems too. If a parent hasn't been nurtured, how are they going to accurately and adequately nurture their own children? These transgenerational issues are because people learn patterns and hold their own. So let's keep going. I feel something rising up, and I got to keep reading. Or the severe emotional lows I experienced that trigger a later reversal in my life. So again, just the ability to think about it and talk about, difficult things is really important. And to have somebody that won't judge you because you're not perfect, and because life didn't treat you fairly, or you don't understand certain things. That's really important, just to have somebody that can hear you out and listen to you. I've met people nobody's ever listened to. They've never had anybody that they can talk to. And that's really important. Gain freedom and encouragement with a safe environment where I can be genuinely honest and genuinely love. See, that's what I just mentioned. To feel the hurt and the anger of the past. Again, a lot of people stuff their feelings and they don't want to feel anything. I mentioned this last week. You weren't here last week. I went and slowed way down and gave the details on this. But if you try not to feel something that's meaningful, what you do is you block all feeling. And so that's where a person is emotionless. And they just feel numb. I've had many people over the years tell me, I just feel numb. I don't feel anything. I don't feel good. I don't feel bad. I don't feel nothing. I just exist. And they're like, because I'm being emotional. Well, that's because you're hiding something. And I heard this, and I mentioned this last week. I've got to keep moving because I want to talk. It's that if some people think time heals all things. Sometimes some things time won't heal. You got to deal with it. You got to bring it up from the inside and talk about what it is and have those consequences. These things are very important. So we learn to forgive those who hurt you. The next box, 1, 2, 3, 4, deal with any addictions. Addictions many times are as a result of a person not connecting well in the stage where they learn to love and be loved. And that's really important on the stage. For example, alcohol. Alcohol, again, a lot of people drown their lack of feeling or their emotions. This person, the empty feeling they feel inside with alcohol. Some people do it with drugs. Illegitimate drugs or prescription medications. I've dealt with people in those cases. Sex, a lot of people use sex as a way to numb emotional pain. And now people use pornography because it's so prevalent and it's everywhere. If you're not watching porn, you're doing that on purpose. Did you hear what I just said? I didn't say that that way. If you're not looking at porn on purpose, you're not looking at it, right? Because it's everywhere. One click away. See, a lot of people use that to numb pain today. Food, a lot of people use food as a way to numb their pain. Emotional issues, I can't go into detail on that, but you know what I mean. And work, see, I used work. I was a workaholic in my younger years. And it wasn't until I was 33, that God really began to challenge me on getting my good feeling in myself about worth and value out of what I did not from who I was in Jesus. And I don't have time, I'm not telling my group, but I'm telling it was a big process for me, and I didn't realize how enslaved I was to the feelings I gained by accomplishing things. That was a big deal to me. And it has been since I was a little kid, 5 years old. Because something was missing in the bondage stage. Does that make sense? You may have to deal with those things. There's freedom there. Let's take risk necessary to get involved in relationships, to get close to people, to be known by them, to develop feelings of dependency as a transitional step towards independence, health, and then begin to face courageously the prospect of rejection. So, let me just make this comment to the leaders. Love. To love somebody. That's a risk. To be loved by someone, that's a risk. To love someone, in this context, just care about people. That's a risk. Because they could reject you, they could treat you harshly, they could have nothing to do with you, and it could turn and have an opposite effect. Instead of helping, it could hurt and harm. Well, that's always the risk we're going to take. And, when I was a young person, I had to come to terms with, would I rather be a loner all my life and be a hermit and have, or be a social hermit where I say hi to people, but nobody knows me. Nobody knows anything about me, and I just isolate myself. I've seen a lot of people do that. My first job in a church, we had almost 5,000 people in the church, and I watched week after week as people use the big crowds to isolate because they know I'm anonymous in the big crowd. And you can do that in a smaller church. We're a mid-sized church. You can do it in this church. But I was the person on staff who actually talked to the people who, quote unquote, fell through the cracks because they were socially isolated. And if you've had things happen and make you feel like you're alone, feel like you're empty, listen, I can tell you from firsthand experience, you can overcome that. And you can come to a place in life that you feel loved and cared for and accepted in a wholesome way. How many know that's a big deal? Money cannot buy that. So anyway, wow, I got a lot to say about that. You may have noted that since the bottom of page 76, noted since taking the risk of developing relationships is difficult, this week I will take the initiative to meet someone new at work. Or you may have written, I'll admit to my addition to whatever. The next sentence, those who have problems with bonding generally have difficulties establishing limits and need to take steps in that stage after having developed some stability in the bonding stage. Many others have bonded fairly well. Their difficulties originate in the separateness stage. So bottom line is, regardless of what you're dealing with, it's not easy to do this. It takes effort, but I just want you to know it's worth the effort. And so if you've ever been rejected by the people that should accept you, see, there's a risk to opening yourself up again. And, you know, for me, I've had this motto in my life. If you know me and have been around me any length of time, I haven't said this in a while publicly, but I've said this. I started this in my 20s, and I said, as I age, because I talked to people a lot. That was my first ministry job. As I age, I want to have a teddy bear heart and an alligator hide. Because people are always going to say and do something that you don't like. But you know what? I don't want to get hard inside. Do you? Have you ever met a person who's hard and you can tell that their attitude, their demeanor is tainted and everything's soiled because of that? Well, Jesus wants us to love and be loved. And we can do that. The blocked in the separateness stage, page 77. Look right up under those big letters there. Those of us with separation problems have not determined for what we are and are not responsible. We think, feel, and act the way we think others want us to. And we try to get others to respond the way we want them to. How many know there's a big problem with that today? So many people are bound by what other people think, and they're doing things purposely to alter somebody's attitude or demeanor towards them, when we need to live to Jesus. And then those that are called to like us, those that don't, well, they don't. And you know, you just got to face up to it that not everybody's going to like you, and be okay with it, right? So anyway, here we are. Where am I? We act like puppets of others while trying to get others to be our puppets. We need to develop a mature, godly sense of independence through which we can appreciate, express our individuality while we give others the freedom to do the same with theirs. Galatians, Paul wrote to the Galatians, each one shall bear his own load, Galatians 6:5. That is, each of us must make our own choices and bear the consequences of those choices. Separateness stage. So years ago, Chip Judd, some of you know him, he came here a lot in years past. He would bring a hula hoop with him. Y'all know what I had one of my grandkids just bought a hula hoop last Friday at Target because I took them there. And hula hoop, you keep it well. Think about a hula hoop. Around you is a hula hoop, an invisible hula hoop. Inside that hula hoop is everything you're responsible for. Your thoughts, your feelings, your choices, your money, your relationships, your actions, your reactions. That's inside that hula hoop. But everything that other people are responsible for is outside that hula hoop. And that's where we get into trouble. And when you start messing with what other people think and trying to force them, you're going outside your hula hoop. And that's the separateness stage that is all whacked out. So here we are. Let's look under this 0 through 100% thing here. Others who have learned or are learning to experience healthy independence can help us greatly as we take steps to work on the following actions. And look at the little boxed places here. The first one, understand why I am overly responsible or irresponsible. So ask yourself questions. Do I feel responsible for how other people feel? You shouldn't. You create your weather. They create their weather. But if you're trying to create other people's personal weather, that's a boundary problem, right? And then if somebody else is feeling bad and mean and cantankerous, and that cabbage is onto you, how many know that's wrong too? You create your weather. So I'm in Jesus. How about you? And he's the one we answer to, not others. And we don't have to be like everybody around us. And we don't have to let their weather problem bother us, right? So anyway, second thing here, learn to feel my own hurt, anger, and joy instead of feeling what others want me to feel. Some people are trapped because they've been raised in a situation where they're forced to act, be, feel certain things. And that's the parent's responsibility to have well-defined boundaries with their children and themselves and their children and their siblings. Susan and I have 4 children, and we have fair conversations. And this is our opinion, and you can go talk to any of my kids anytime you like. Right, Sarah? I'm joking. But I think y'all have really good, healthy boundaries. Do you think we all have that, Sarah? We have pretty good boundaries. Nobody's perfect at this stuff, but we taught our children what they're responsible for and what others are responsible for, not just physically, but relationally, emotionally, and everything else that goes along. And if you train children that way, it helps them a lot in life. But if the boundaries are not there, and for instance, somebody's doll wasn't the other person's doll. My son's, gun was, play gun. I shouldn't say that, whatever. Wasn't somebody else's. You hear what I'm saying? It's his. That's mine, or their clothing, or whatever. That's my book. And we make sure the boundaries are well defined. Otherwise, children have some real problems. Learn to forgive those who have manipulated and hurt me. Think my own thoughts instead of adopting those of others. Do what I think is right instead of what others think I ought to do. Wow. I think because of the internet today and because of the lack of social engagement, and honestly, y'all can say this is my opinion. I think it's a real problem to work at home. It's convenient, it saves money, and it saves time, but the socialization is not there. And none of us are created to live in isolation. And it keeps us from developing in the ways that we could. Because you know what the truth is? I'm so grateful for the people in my life who God placed there through all the decades of time that I've lived now who are not like me. And I was forced by being around them to accept them, whether I like them or not, be nice when I didn't want to be kind when I didn't feel like it, to not lash out when I felt like it, and just to accept their opinions which may have disagreed with mine. Now you can do some of that on Zoom, but not a lot of it. I didn't get any response, yes or no? Anyway, let's think about it. Refuse to be manipulated and learn to say no. That's important. We talked about that last week. Let others be responsible for their lives and make their own choices without my interference. Avoid one-sided black or white extremes in my analysis and conversations about people, events, and circumstances. I can tell you I don't know how this developed in me. Sometimes you can't figure it out, but it's real. What was real to me, and it's in the separateness area for me. My parents were pretty good at that, but for some reason, I became very black and white. It may be my personality that interpreted things that happened as very, very black and white, and I didn't leave any room for gray area. So if somebody disagreed with me, I would stand off. I ain't messing with him anymore. No. You got to learn to be nice and accept people who disagree. Disagreement doesn't mean dislike. but in my psyche it was dislike if you disagree. We need objectivity, and that means the ability to listen to someone else who may not agree with you. So maybe you're challenged with what I just said. And it may be in the workplace if you work at a place where there's other people, or often it happens with the social interactions at the church you attend, or other gatherings where there are other people who are not like you. That's where you learn. That's where you learn that you can like somebody and not agree with everything they think or say. I'm sure I say enough words. That's right. I'm sure I say enough words that I'm going to say something, you go, I don't like that. Well, that's okay. I mean, that's really okay. So anyway, set limits, the last thing, about what I will be and do and what I will not be and do, so that I can respond to others calmly and confidently. I like the bottom of page 77. We talked about this a few weeks ago. Each of us needs to learn to take care of his or her own ranch. Your ranch is your life. Your ranch is your responsibility. Your ranch is the things you're responsible for, right? So we need to take responsibility for building strong fences and gates, and for overseeing our own cattle, crops, home, and family. We can then invite others to join us for visits at our ranch. Isn't that great? And we can visit theirs if we are invited. If they offend us, which next page, we can be honest with them about the hurt and the consequences of that their behavior generates. If necessary, we can ask them to leave our ranch. I've had to do that. You ever had to do that? in a kind way. With this kind of strength, we can be calm, secure, and loving. We can then choose to give and serve rather than being compelled to do so in order to win someone else's approval. You know, you got bullies on the playground when you're a kid. You also have bullies in adult life who try to force their thoughts, feelings, opinions, and desires on everybody else. That often happens in an office situation, and it often happens in a church environment, in a volunteer environment. And we need to be very careful that we have good boundaries. How many hear what I'm saying? So that's some good conversation you could have with that tonight. A person with difficulties in the separateness stage almost certainly have difficulties with issues in the adolescent stage. Others, however, have bondage and separated quite well. So let's look at the adolescent stage. I'm running out of time. From what I told my leaders, I got a minute, but I'm going to fudge. Y'all help me. Pray for me. Help me, Jesus. If you're blocked in the adolescent stage, in either physical or emotional adolescence, peer relationships seem to mean everything. If we find ourselves with people who are positive and encouraging, we tend to adopt their attitudes. In the same way, if we spend a lot of time with people who are negative, we usually become negative. If they're angry, we become angry. If they're violent, we tend towards violence. Adolescence is a very vulnerable stage of life. The strength that has been established in the bonding and separateness stages can be wasted by destructive peer pressures. I had a really good home, generally speaking, when I was young, but I got around the wrong people when I was a teenager, and it almost cost me my life 2 times. Almost. So just be aware. In adolescence, we need to work on the following things. Number 1, choose my friends wisely. Adolescence is not just a physical age, it's also a socially developmental age. Does that make sense? So we're always bonding. We're always practicing separateness. We're always dealing with the adolescent stage and knowing what is ours versus what is others, and what our strengths and weaknesses are versus what other people's strengths and weaknesses are. Second thing, under adolescent stage, monitor my values, my goals, and relationships to determine whether they are developing in the right direction. Thirdly, develop good habits, personally, relationally, professionally, and so on. You know, I'm a big deal with habits. I just know that if I can do something from 21 to 28 days, that's 3 to 4 weeks, I can develop a habit pattern, and it becomes easier and easier to do. So honestly, I do that. I like this, and I got to stop. I do this in my spiritual life with the Word, with prayer. I do this in my physical life with physical exercise. There's certain things I do that I don't feel like doing every day. I do them anyway. And it's changing my life. I do it relationally, certain things I do with my wife, Susan, with my children, with my grandchildren, with my peers, with my social circle around me that I think are very, very important, and they become habits, personally, relationally, professionally, and so on. Identify my strengths and weaknesses and learn to accept myself. You got to accept that you can't do everything well. there's a few things that you're really good at, but there's some things you're not good at. And that's where we value other people. And that adolescent stage is where we learn that. Some people haven't learned that well, and that's the reason they try to be a jack of all trades and literally are a master of none. Learn to forgive others and myself. Learn that I cannot do everything and that I must pace myself. Man, that's been hard for me because I want to do this much in one day when I maybe need to do half of that or less. And I've had to learn that over the years. And I can just tell you, age is a real good teacher. As you get older, you can't do everything you did when you were younger. You got to take a break. How many of you have figured that out yet? If you're blocked in the maturity stage, and I'm almost done, can we assume that someone who has reached the maturity stage, and that's the adult life, where you have a job, you have a business, you have a profession, there are things that are important for you to do. You're earning your own income, you have your own family. Can we assume that someone has reached the maturity stage is not vulnerable to blockages in development? On the contrary, stagnation and reversal also can occur in maturity if someone is not watchful and prepared. Now this is really important. Look at this last sentence on page 78. In fact, persons in this stage often experience extreme spiritual battles because the forces of darkness want to thwart their effectiveness. So if you've been doing what you do a long time and you're zipping along and things are great, and then all of a sudden, bam, something hits you. Sometimes that's a demonic assault, and you got to recognize that. We take authority over it, and then we choose not to live by our feelings, and we choose to act on God's word regardless of what we think and feel. And then the next page here, I'm almost done. Those of us in this stage who find ourselves stagnating, wandering, or becoming embittered need to work on the following actions. Do you know how many people I have met? I met them when I was in my 20s, and I thought I never want to be that way. I met people in their 50s, their 60s, their 70s who were angry about something with life and just basically said, I'm done. And they stopped relating well. They stopped relating well to the Lord. And they just kind of cocooned themselves in because of problems that developed. And some of the problems were how they chose to deal with things beyond their control. And there are things constantly that happen beyond our control. That's when we learn to trust God, trust His best, walk in love, mercy, grace, and forgiveness towards other people and ourselves too. And let me say, I can say from firsthand experience, as you age, you always think of what you coulda, shoulda, or woulda done. And you got to cut that off. You are where you are by the grace of God, right? And you can't change. Maybe you made some disastrous choices in your teens and 20s with relationships, with marriage, with money, with whatever. You got to at some point let it go and place it in the hands of Jesus, right? And trust Him to work things out. How many hear me? I feel a preach coming on, but let's look at this and we'll quit. Understand what is going on in my life. Are the worries of the world and the deceitfulness of riches beginning to choke out growth? Does my life show signs of spiritual conflict and oppression? Is the Lord pruning me? Now, that's a big deal. Sometimes God will put you on a little journey where things aren't working, and sometimes it's on purpose. So you'll suck rug and seek God and back up a little bit and quit being so stinking busy, right? Or am I experiencing the consequences of a rebellious attitude? Oh my. Seek the counsel of mature godly persons. And that's important for all of us, to have someone that you can trust, you can be honest with, that you can rely on. And this is where pastors are challenged. Every pastor, like my position, I need somebody I can confide in who understands the pains, the losses of being a pastor and having relationships that sometimes terminate rapidly, of people who misunderstand, don't understand, who are just like a goat anyway. And you got to have somebody to talk to about it. We don't have any of those at Victory Church, by the way. So anyway, let's see. Seek the counsel. Yeah. Be honest about unresolved hurt and anger in my life. Forgive those who have hurt me. Take time to replenish my emotional, relational, and spiritual reserves. That is real good. Read, pray, relax, and laugh. Don't you like that? Read, play, relax, and laugh. I got things I do. I ride my bike to play. Believe it or not, I cut my grass to play. I watch good, clean, wholesome historical movies to play. I got some I watched while Susan's been gone. I watched 2. I thought, man, that was great. And if you want, I'll tell you what they are if you want to hear them. But they help me determine the one thing to which I want to devote my life and accomplish instead of trying to do too many things well. That's what some of us do. We got too many plates up in the air. And we got to find out what God's called us to do and do that well and leave the rest to someone else. So I'm done. Y'all good? Y'all enjoy that? So I don't even have one of those papers y'all got. If all the group leaders would please stand up. We have group leaders. We've got a group in the back. That's mine back there. We got one over here. We got one over here, and we got some down the hallway. Group leaders, stand up, go to the back, and just find a group leader and take off and meet at that group. Is that okay? So go ahead and get up. We're going to be done at 8:15. But go in the groups, and they have questions and